Well, last week, Holly and I were up here answering questions that were sent in, and so there were so many questions that came in. We weren't able to get to all of them, but there were just some great questions that helped us just prepare on what we talk about. But I thought I would try to answer a couple tonight that came in that we couldn't get to, but let me answer a couple questions here. One of the things I notice is that questions are coming from all over, whether they're out of state because we have church online or just in here. And there are questions that just cover all kinds of aspects of relationships. One of the things I notice that I know that people here there's a number of people that are really trying hard to do this right. And I appreciate that intention and that desire. And so we're just hoping to bring some direction or ideas that could help you along the way, sorting things out. But one question was here, number one is there such a thing as the one? Or how do you know when it's the right one and that sort of thing? There are several questions similar to that. And Holly and I don't really believe that there's such a thing as the one in the universe that you were born to be with. And the reason that we think that is just because if one person gets out of sync, what I'm sure a few have, it's thrown it off for all of us. I mean, it's just a mathematical, thing where you can go, oh, maybe there isn't just the one. Or else there's a good chance you're behind already, you messed up and you didn't even start. So I really believe that what you want to focus on is finding one that you believe that God is leading you to trust in and be that one that you join your life to. And so the point is not trying to figure out the whole universe, but just figuring out your world. And that is letting God lead you and making the best decisions that you can. Then another question that came in was questions about being prepared to date. Somebody asked, at what point in life is it okay to start dating? And some people ask about a certain age or a job or house. And so I guess the age, I can't answer that because that's, somebody really young, I would imagine. You'd have to find out from your parents. But it's interesting. Some of the questions here made me think that people are trying so hard to figure everything out that sometimes our trying so hard gets in the way. So I'd rather have people want to do it right so hard that you can get them to back down a little bit than somebody who doesn't really care that much about getting it right, to try to talk them to be a little wiser, And so, but a lot of times it's just the coffee. It's just you go out with somebody, you just go out and have a coffee and don't make such a big deal of it. Just see how it works out. It's so funny in a church like this, you have people going, people asking questions. You should tell guys to, just ask people out more often, or something. And then other people are just like, these guys are coming on too strong. You guys have to figure that out yourself. I can't call you up and go ahead, go for it, But the one thing is, I just think, don't make it so hard. It's hard enough, So just relax. You go to coffee, go out with some friends, and then just take the next step if you're interested, and ask that question. Hey, you want to go out somewhere, or whatever you do, whatever you guys do these days. Okay. This one is. I would say this. If you've had a number of relationships and you're feeling, I don't know if I'm ready, and that question comes, when do I know that I'm ready to go out? Maybe you've even been married and divorced, and then you're thinking, well, when am I? That is a great question, because I believe the answer would be when you're able to view the person that you're going out with not through the lens of hurt or insecurity or putting the sins of somebody else on them. And so that you can have the freedom to not overreact to every comment or every question, but that you've got some peace and resolve in yourself, because it's not fair to the other person when you're trying trying to get back into building some relationships, but you're carrying a lot of hurt with you. And so that, I would say, take it a little bit slower. One of them was, what's a good time to start dating, or when I have a job. I'm not sure that, but if you're a guy, yeah, that'd be good. Get a job, then you can ask people out, and then you have my permission. So the third one is a very serious question, and what was disturbing to me is that it came in from many different sources. And it was asking this question: how do I save a marriage after an affair? And so this is a really serious question, because we all react to a feeling like that. But I have to say, our world, our society doesn't really date in a way that sets you up for a win in that area. It's kind of surprised that there aren't more affairs going on the way that we handle dating world and our sexual life. Because you anticipate what your relationship is going to be like in the future based on what things have been like in the past. And so that's one of the reasons that God has a way of you managing your soul and your body and your sexuality when you're dating. And so that's kind of a philosophical statement. The other part of it is when somebody has an affair, it's a horrible thing, and it's painful. But what I challenge Christians to do is that while you can find biblical reason to get out of that marriage or get a divorce, I don't know that that's the highest choice of love. I've witnessed a number of marriages that have gone through a betrayal like that, and somehow, through the grace of God, the marriage becomes better, stronger, more real, and more trusting than it was before. Because what you find out is that you're going through a routine, you're playing a role, you're not really honest, and you find yourself very vulnerable to other relationships, and then you make a horrible decision. It's hurtful, it's painful, I'm not endorsing it, but getting rid of somebody or moving on is not always the right choice. Christianity is based on the highest expression of love there is, and that's called forgiveness. That's why we're in the game. And so then, maybe we have to dig a little deep for that forgiveness. I'm not suggesting anybody stay committed to a serial adulterer or subject yourself to physical or sexual abuse or disease or whatever it might be. But two people who are willing to work on saying it's going to take forgiveness, it's going to take some trust, regaining trust and being willing to trust. But I do say that there are many people we've met going to other churches, speaking, doing all that we do, who say our marriage is better than ever because we've made that journey and found strength. So you don't have to give up hope for that. And the last one here that I'll mention today is it was talking about how do you deal with loneliness as a single person. And how do you, if you've been involved in a strong relationship in the past, that you don't get drawn back to it? And the reason I bring both those questions up, because I think the answer is similar. A lot of loneliness and poor choices are directly related to lack of purpose. And I know we don't connect the dots that way, but when you've got a reason to live, something that you're doing, something that you're investing in, even if it's short term, it keeps you less vulnerable to, now what do I do? And now I don't have anything going on and nobody's talking to me. What do I do? Who should I? When you have a strong purpose, if you're singing, we saw people sing. If you're singing, you're taking lessons, you're working, you're doing songs, learning, you're trying to improve your career, your ability. And so you don't have a lot of hangout time if you're really serious about it. If you're just hoping for good luck, then you already do have a lot of time. But if you're a business person or you're in ministry, you're working, you're studying, you're trying to improve and grow, and you got something to do. I don't think that you're as vulnerable to loneliness when you got something to going on in your life. And the other part of that is that when you do have something you're pursuing, that's when you tend to meet people who have something going on also that you connect with. So find something to do. That's a great benefit to serving, you know, being involved with others and just not having your focus on yourself. I mean, I don't mean that to make that sound bad, but that's one of the benefits of serving. If you stay focused on yourself, you become aware of all the things that aren't going on. And we all have stuff that aren't going on, but you don't want to build your life around that. You know, one other thing, I'm going to be teaching here in just a second, and I'm teaching out of this book that Holly and I wrote, and it just came out here with Regal Publishers called Love Works. And we cover a lot of different areas of relationship. And so one of them is, because we talk about dating, choosing the right person, we talk about marriage and fighting fair, and it's funny that I think of marriage and fighting fair right after each other, but that was an accident. But there's one chapter called Frog Kissing and Princess Rescuing. Is a chapter that I wrote, and it's talking about that sort of fantasyful, is that a word? Yeah, it is now. Good, write it down. Call Wikipedia. The way that we look at picking somebody, listen, who you choose is a significant part of a successful relationship. And it doesn't mean that two broken people can't be healed and strengthened and have a great relationship, but choosing well is huge. It could be 70, 80% of your success. And so you have to be wise as a single person. How many of you in this room are single? Come on. Okay, great. Put your hands down. How many of you are married? Come on. Okay, there's 12 of you. Great. No, there was more than that. 14. So in this chapter, I'll read a couple of, what I have in here is red flags. And so when you're in a relationship and you're trying to see if this is a person to continue on with, I wrote about a few red flags, and I'll read 2 or 3 of them and maybe just a little paragraph or something. And so obviously the positive thing is the opposite of the red flag, but the red flag has to do with the situation or the person. You want to hear it? Yeah. One red flag is too close too soon. So this is red flags in dangerous relationships. And that's what we tend to do in our society. And that's one of those ways that we might think where the scripture says, don't be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Is that in the world, we're so quick to get close and in the sack with each other. We're so quick to just like take it to the next level, and it's too close too soon. The relationship isn't ready for that. On a humorous level, I mean, you could be going out on a first coffee with somebody, and they're talking about how they can't wait to get married and have kids, and you're just like, wow, that's a lot of information right here. Because there's no way you can't say, oh, this makes me feel awkward. And so, but it says here, one big mistake people make is going too fast. Learn how to pace yourself. Be careful not to get involved too quickly or let your emotions go without restraint. That's the point, is that you just give all that you are on day 2 or 3 or date 4. It's make people earn the right to your soul. You know, when you hear that you're a treasure, then treat yourself like that. You don't just hand out your PIN number to whoever so they can just get some cash out. So you don't want to just give your soul to somebody right away. But you're not going to learn that out there. They're going to say, what are you waiting for, man? You better get serious or that guy's going to move on. Good. Anyway. Then what else did I say? Lack of personal growth is a red flag. And I know we don't really look at people that way, but I'm telling you, look at people that way. Is this a person growing and learning about life, about their health, about relationships, about their faith? Because your marriage success will rest on how much you're willing to grow and change. And you've got to base your expectation of future what you've seen in the past. And so if you got somebody who knows it all or not really motivated or, I'm good looking, what else do I need? Then you're in for trouble. That's a huge red flag. You want to find somebody who is growing in some way. It says, A commitment to personal growth is essential to relational success. I'm talking about personal growth, not personal survival, not personal enjoyment, but not personal accomplishment, but personal growth. Learning, communication, learning, working on your emotions, working on, if you've had some emotional damage in your life, then you're part of the majority. And so just showing some awareness of trying to grow. An abusive father, whether you're a boy, a man or a woman, an abusive father leaves a boulder in your soul that can't be ignored. You can try, but it will surface when the man inside you needs to step up. And so if you don't have somebody that's not even showing any motivation to work on that, what's going to happen when you hit a wall in your marriage and you go, we need to work on something? Like, I don't want to work on anything. You work on it. I mean, that's just what I see. So those are a few thoughts here that might help you. Okay. If you've traveled on an airline, you've heard that pre-flight speech, either from the flight attendant or now a lot of airlines do it by video. We were just on a flight where they had some kind of hip-hop song and they sang the instructions to you, which was kind of funny. But on the video, you learn all the stuff that you hear all the time. So it's like, they teach you how to buckle your seatbelt if you're that one person in the universe that has no idea how to do that. And then you learn the exits, over here. And so we tend to blank out on it. One of the things that's kind of interesting to me is when they say, in the unlikely event of a water landing, which we all know what that means. That means if we crash in the ocean, here's the plan, And whenever they show the video and people are doing what they say they're supposed to be doing, they're all sweet and kind. They're just like controlled, and they pick up their little vest and they put it on and do all that. But look, just think. 25 minutes ago when they said we're now boarding, just group one approached the gate, and you see how everybody responds. In a crisis, there's going to be chaos no matter how many videos you watch. And so one of the things that I think is very interesting about these is when they talk about when there is a sudden loss of cabin pressure, the oxygen changes and the masks come down, and they say if you have a small child, put yours on first and then the child, which seems kind of counterintuitive, because you're going to be protective. But the reason that they talk about that is because of something called hypoxia. And hypoxia is something that happens fast and it hits you, and it's because a loss of oxygen in the lungs and a loss of oxygen in the brain, and the result is varied, but it usually includes sluggish thinking, dimmed vision, and some people lose consciousness. And everybody reacts different. Some people will start laughing. Some people get tense. Some people just pass out. And then you're no help to anybody. And so that's why they say get your oxygen first, so then you can be available to help someone. And so when I thought about this, I was thinking about how we need this information for marriage and relationships. Because in marriage and relationships, sometimes we suffer a lack of oxygen. A real, dynamic, passionate relationship requires oxygen. And when the life goes out of the relationship, sometimes we're not aware of it happening until we're in the middle of a crisis, just like the person who's out of air. And romantically speaking, we start acting with sluggish thinking, dimmed vision, and a loss of consciousness. I can't tell you how many times somebody said, all of a sudden, he just left. We've been married 10 years. All of a sudden, she just walked out. And so I know bizarre things happen, but many times there's signs going on, and we're just not paying attention. We're just losing out on what's happening and how to fix it. And so what happens is the life goes out, and the next thing you know, your relationship needs CPR. Or mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, which is my personal favorite, by the way. But what we need to do is to learn about keeping relationships alive. And when I'm talking about this, try not to treat me like a flight attendant where you start thinking of other things and going, oh, whatever, blah, 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 put on this oxygen. And when we're talking about marriage and relationships, because when you get in that crisis, you're going to need to know. Or when you're moving toward the best relationship of your life, you need to know the things that matter. And so you don't want to face that opportunity with having not really been prepared yourself to know what to do. And many times we learn a lot about what we do in relationships from movies and television. What a great source that is. Because we think that tells us about society and the culture that we live in, and they talk about relationships. If you're a guy, you will eventually be confronted with the need to attend several romantic comedies. And, some people do that, other people resist. But love is portrayed in romantic comedies as wonderful, which it is. And it shows us a feeling that we all want to have, and we want to have it forever. But often we're watching this on the screen and we're thinking, I don't really have this in my life, whether you're married or in a relationship or not. And what bothers me, so actually a few of my favorite all-time movies are romantic comedy categories, like Notting Hill, or that one that was just out this year, About Time. I like that. But mostly in these movies, relationships are crazy. There wouldn't even be a movie if they had any intelligence here, because they lie about things that don't need to be lied about. And I guess that's how you have a movie, have a conflict. And so you're thinking, why are you saying that? You're just going to create problems. And so the tension builds and you got a movie, And so then sometimes they make decisions and it makes it worse. And sometimes they present decisions like it's a good idea that we're watching and learning. And then sometimes the thing turns out better at the end of the movie, having done something stupid. And so I saw one movie, the marriage is having trouble. They went out, they both had an affair. Then they come back, we love each other really, so that's what helped them. So, oh, what a happy movie. And I just think that's not how to do it. It might be how to make a good romantic comedy, but it's not how you do life. So here's the question I'm asking. What does love look like to you? What does a passionate, wonderful, big, fulfilling relationship, marriage look like to you? And is it continual romantic bliss, or is it struggling day in and day out to find those moments that you enjoy enough to keep going? Or could love be like a sailboat that is driven by the wind that you create? That's the picture that I like to see. I read this in a book, a writer, I guess it's kind of a poem, but it's just very poetic anyway, but I want to read this to you. He wrote, "My parents danced together, her head on his chest. Both had their eyes closed. They seemed so perfectly content. If you can find someone like that, someone you can hold and close your eyes to the world with, then you're lucky. Even if it only lasts for a minute or a day. The image of them gently swaying to the music is how I picture love in my mind, even after all these years." How do you picture relationship? When I got married, I pictured marriage as volatile, as dangerous, and the first argument is a good sign it's going to be over. What do you think about when you picture a relationship? What we're going to talk about today is so crucial. It's so important. And it's not important because that I'm teaching it or what I'm going to say, but because it's about relationships. Healthy dating relationships as you navigate through this part of your life is so important that you go through it learning and having great experiences that move you forward, not break your heart over and over till you're just so relieved to find somebody who you can trust. Or marriages, you look around, that's why we're calling it Love Works, because marriages fail all over the place. But see, love works, marriage works, even though we're seeing the opposite. That's why I'm telling you, this is a very important message, because I think we're relationally challenged and there's a spiritual opposition a darkness that comes against us in our relationships so that we can't enjoy what God intended us to. And just in the last 3 weeks, I have heard about 3 Christian leaders whose marriages have collapsed on some level. I don't know what the future is going to be, but so these are good people. Not horrible, deceptive people that the truth finally comes out. It's just good people. And they lose their way. They make poor decisions. One, the guy had an affair. One, the wife had an affair. One, I don't even know what happened. And it just kind of blew up, and you're like, what? Most of us look and go, well, if they can't make it, what chance do I have? And not just because they're Christian leaders, or it could be just friends that you look at and say, wow, these are great people. And so this message I'm giving to you is no joke. It's so important for our lives. And so a great relationship is built, I believe, based on big things that you do and lots of little things. It's something that you learn. It's part of your lifestyle, is honoring and loving your spouse. I try hard to get the big things right. And, I've had some pretty good success with that. But I really think it's the little things that keep things going with me and my wife. Even this morning, she's speaking in another state. I'm here. I text her, I live you. Because I have an iPhone, so it's hard for me to get the O every time. But she knows what I meant. And so we just talk to each other, encourage each other. Those little things matter. It's not just the little things, because the big things are important, and it's not the other way around. It's continual. It's how you live life. And so I want to tell you, those of you that are single here, that you can have a great dating relationship, and you can find a wonderful marriage that you can last a lifetime. And if you're married, those of you that are married, whether it's the first time or you're remarried, you have a 100% chance of having a great marriage. But not if you just leave everything alone, because what it turns out is that you don't have to do any huge mistake to mess up a relationship. You just have to do nothing. And you can mess up your relationship. So it has to be intentional. And so I realize that relationships are complicated, people are complicated, and but I believe that these dynamics work. And so what I'm going to talk to you about today is something that I call the E5 solution, the E5 secret. And one of the most profound writings in the book of Ephesians or in the New Testament, in my opinion, is in Ephesians in chapter 5. So it's E5. And it talks about relationships in a really unique and significant way. And in the New Living Translation, Paul writes this, Ephesians 5:33, each man must love his wife as he loves himself, and the wife must respect her husband. Most people don't like that recipe. They think it's irrelevant, it's old school, it's history, it doesn't relate to today. But when relationships fail, often people's conclusion is, well, marriage doesn't work, or love doesn't work, instead of, well, maybe I should have considered this option in E5. Because marriage does work, and love does work. God originated it. So we should be looking at his manual on how to make it work. And understanding these two simple little things can give you a lot to do and a lot of solutions to complicated problems. So, and let me just say before I go on, when I speak of marriage here tonight, I'm speaking of a biblical Christian marriage. I'm talking about a heterosexual monogamous relationship, one man being married to one woman for their life. And you may not like that definition, and I understand that. And I'm not angry at you for having a different opinion about marriage. I hope that you can be not angry at me for having one that I like from the scripture. And my version of love allows me to hang with you even though you got a different opinion. I hope that your version of love allows you to do the same. There is no more important agenda in your life than to learn how to love, how to get better at learning to love, and how to grow in that. Because I've been married to Holly for 29 and some years and some months, and we're still learning, and we're still growing, and we still face unique and new challenges in the marriage. So you don't just put it on autopilot, or once you cross a certain number, you're like, hey, we're going to cruise now. You're always needing to grow, and so you got to start now. You want to do that, and I don't know why I'm yelling at you, because you're here learning, so. I believe at the core of it is if you will do what other people will not do, you will have what other people will never have. And so that's true in so many areas, but especially relationships. And so since this is so important, this verse, because it tells us two things in this secret that I'm going to talk to you about, then I want to read a couple other versions of the Bible in the same verse. And so the benefit of that is that you see different Bible scholars pulling out meanings from the original word that helps us understand more clearly what the writer could be saying. And so Ephesians 5:33 in the Amplified Bible says this: each man of you without exception love his wife as being in a sense his very own self. And let the wife see that she respects and reverences her husband, that she notices him, regards him, honors him, prefers him, venerates him, and esteems him, and that she defers to him, praises him, and loves and admires him exceedingly. Wow. The Amplified version is my new favorite. I always tease Holly like this is the woman's Bible because he just goes on and explains. But I don't think a woman wrote all that, do you? I don't. But let's go on to the Message Bible because they explain this here. I added verse 32 just in this one as well. It says, this is a huge mystery, and I don't pretend to understand it all. What is clearest to me is the way Christ treats the church. And that's crucial. We'll come back to it. And this provides a good picture of how each husband is to treat his wife, loving himself in loving her, and how each wife is to honor her husband. And so when you read the rest of that chapter, you see how Jesus sets the example because he loves the church, or he sets the example of a bridegroom loving his wife. He washes her, he purifies her, he blesses her, he lays his life down for her. His focus is her. And that's the kind of love when it starts out saying, husbands, love your wives. And then lastly, the version of a Bible called the Voice Bible says this: each husband is to love and protect his own wife as if she were his very heart. Now here's how we describe this. Every human being, male or female, we all need to be respected. Every human being, we all need to be loved and be able to love. But how we are seeing this is what that's called is honor. You're honored when you feel loved and respected. But to men, honor is expressed more in the terms of respect and admiration and appreciation. And women, it may be more expressed in the area of love and admiration and just caring in a loving way. And so this is the focus that we have to learn about. And so let's talk about these two, and then we'll come to a close. So the first one is, husbands, love your wife as if she were your very heart. Husbands, those of you that are currently husbands, that's your goal. Those of you that are single and dating, that's what you need to learn as a man. And women, that's what you're looking for in a man. Does he know how to be kind? Does he know how to prefer someone else? Does he know how to love? Husbands, love your wife in a way that she feels honored and cared for. Love her in a way that she feels safe. Protect her heart and her emotions. Protect her dreams. The minute you behave in such a way that your wife is hesitant to say what she really feels, you violated your role. Because now you've communicated to her, I am not safe. Be careful what you say. Because I'm the man. And that's the wrong version of a man. Treat her in a way that she feels she is the most important person in your life. Treat her as the way she's the most important thing in comparison to business or career or anything else. Because that's how marriage works. That's how it's designed. that your spouse is number one. And we all put them there metaphorically, but we don't always live out that way, and that's when the oxygen starts to leave. As the great relationship expert Hitch said, no woman ever woke up in the morning and thought, I sure hope no one sweeps me off my feet today. Women want romance. My wife has an endless vessel for romance and a container. So, and a lot of guys, we're not even sure what that is. I mean, we try, but sometimes it's like, how did that work? But I like this definition by Pastor Jimmy Evans. He says this: romance is meeting an unspoken need of your wife in her language. Great. Study your wife. She loves it when you study her. It says you're on my heart. So Holly and I, a few months ago, we're out having a good time one night, and we're with another couple. They're a little younger than us. They're in love with each other, not married yet. But we're walking along and going to dinner, and all night they're just like, oh, you're so cute, and they're holding each other and touching each other's nose, giggling, and just sort of just like, oh gosh. Holly and I look at each other. How long is this gonna go on for? You know, you're so cute, and there are all these things. And we were talking about, remember what it was like when we're boyfriend and girlfriend, and then all of a sudden Holly goes, I want a boyfriend. She goes, I don't want to have an affair or anything. Because in case you don't understand, I'm talking about you. I like a boyfriend because I want to be romanced and loved and adored, and I like those spontaneous moments of being held and hugged and touched. And she goes, I want a husband who loves me. I don't need just a roommate. If I wanted a roommate, I'd get somebody easier to live with. Wow. Good point. Well taken. Because I want a girlfriend. I want somebody who just admires me and adores everything I say. And when I come home, when I come home, I just want her to say, tell me what you've been thinking and doing today, because you're so amazing. So, because we're married and we're Christians, we only have each other as an option. So I can't go out and find a girlfriend. She can't go out and find a boyfriend. So we're committed to being that for each other. So it was a great conversation to have, because it's me as a husband. When you're the husband, the Bible clearly says there's a place of leadership and responsibility you have, but it's not for privilege, it's for service. It's your responsibility to provide a home where there's safety and love and communication and honesty. And that's when you're ready to be a husband, or that's what you're growing to be. And so there was a fictitious character, Don Juan, that is written about. But there was a movie a few years back called Don Juan DeMarco, and I liked that movie because this guy was delusional. I think he thought he was Don Juan, and the psychiatrist is trying to help him come out of his delusion. But the only thing is, the psychiatrist said he's doing much better in his relationships than I am in my marriage all these years. And so there was a great scene there that's right here, and this Don Juan character says this: how do I love? By seeing beyond what is visible to the eye. Now, there are those, of course, who do not share my perceptions, it's true. When I say that women are dazzling beauties, they object. The nose on this one is too large, the hips on another are too wide. But I see these women for how they truly are: glorious, radiant, spectacular, and perfect, because I'm not limited to my own eyesight. Women react to me the way they do because they sense that I search out the beauty that dwells within until it overwhelms. And as for you, he says to the doctor, you are a great lover like myself, even though you may have lost your way and your accent. But I just thought, what a way to describe this. And that is the role of a husband. It's endless. You know, it requires you to dig deep and to be that person. You know, if you're not up to the challenge, face it and don't get married. But if you're going to be a lover, a lot of people in our world think making love is having sex one night. But making love is having your wife full of your love for years and years, and that you find beauty in her that's new every day, and that you bring that out in her. That's making love. So, in trying to be a good boyfriend to my wife, we celebrated our 29th anniversary this year in January. And so what I learned as a husband is that the big ones are ones that end in 0. 10, 20, 30, after a couple of decades, I figured that out. But my wife likes surprises, and so I thought, I know, I'm going to make the 29th amazing. She could expect something special next year, but I'm going to surprise her this year and do something awesome. And if Hitch is right, she's not waking up in the morning and say, I sure hope he doesn't sweep me off my feet today, because it's only the 29th. And so I started planning a few weeks ahead. And I have to tell you, I just have these moments every once in a while. This is just like a few things on the category of good ideas. I've had many bad ones. But I started planning ahead. So what happened is on that morning, I woke her up bringing coffee to her in the bed, and I made it just the way she likes it. She likes it strong enough to stand a spoon up, and then some warm milk and some agave, and I brought it all to her. And then I had 2 cards, greeting cards that I filled out, and we always get each other 2 cards for birthdays or Christmas or whatever. And we didn't plan it, it just happens. I think it started out being, here's one that the kids can see, and here's one just for me and you. But that's the only thing. So I give her the 2 cards. Then I wrote this love letter like a man from another planet. I spent like 6 weeks on it, and she read some to you last week. And so she read that, and so then I said, okay, now I'm going to take you to breakfast. And so she got ready, went to breakfast. And then there, I gave her a gift. I had this book with pictures from different things in 29 years that you can do on an iPhoto with Apple, and you just make a little book. So I did that, and so we were looking at the pictures and talking and just having a good time, and probably had a couple other cards or something. But then I gave her a card, and it says, okay, now you're going to go and get your nails done. I'd already gone down there and paid the person. I gave him a card to give to her. I invited several of her friends. So now she's going to go and meet her friends down there. And I knew she'd love that because she wants to talk about the whole thing over. And so I just said, go over there, spend a couple hours, talk yourself crazy, just get it all out and have a good time. And so then afterward, we went and had lunch. And we went to lunch, and you guys here at this church have really messed me up, because the young people who do proposals here, they come up with like this creative production that makes my proposal look like I'm an idiot. And so I'm always embarrassed to hear everybody's story, because how I engaged to Holly was kind of a conversation that was escalating into a tense thing. And I said, okay, well, I want to marry you then. That's why. That's how. Thank you. Okay. So, but wait, I fixed it. So at lunch on our 29th anniversary, I bought a ring. I bought it months ago, and so I did the whole thing, and I knelt down in the restaurant, and I re-proposed to her in front of God and all these people. And she said yes, by the way. So we're good for another 29. And so I'm saying that because all that stuff matters. It's not about the expense. It's about the time or the thought or the creativity. And I went way overboard with all that stuff because I don't do enough of it. So I tried to. And the good thing is with me is that she will tell the story because she speaks a lot. So the more she tells it, it gets bigger. I do things I never thought of by the 10th time. And she's like, I'm a hero. So I just go, oh, tell them the story about the 29th. Because then I know I get benefits for like 2 or 3 weeks. So then the third thing is, or not the third thing, the second thing, this is for the wives part, the women, and then we'll finish up here. It says, wives, respect your husband because respect is the breath of life in his heart and soul. When he is respected, he'll be drawn to you. Respect to a man is oxygen to his masculinity. When he feels respected, he will rise to any challenge, go the extra mile, and care for you with greater love. But if he feels disrespected by you, if he feels disrespected by a situation, or you cause him to feel like a failure, he will withdraw and he will shut down. He will. He could be a good man, he could try really hard, but he will move away from disrespect. So women, you have to discover that men are not your enemy, and that encouraging their masculinity, it does not equal to you being weak or a doormat. That's some distorted picture from the past or someone else's life. It doesn't have to be yours. Because you can have confidence. In fact, you have to have a lot of confidence and strength to give to others, to give encouragement, to give respect. It's a sign of strength in your own. And so, celebrating the power of a woman does not require diminishing the significance of a man. And so you don't want, you need to be strong, but you don't want your strength to annihilate some part of your husband's personality, because it won't take you to where you want to go. And you should know that about men that you work with, men that you do life with, friends, relatives, that men respond that way often. So you can be wise. You know how to be wise and attentive, and so that it can change how you communicate to people. And a lot of times we get this question from women, which is fair enough, and it's, how do I respect somebody who I don't respect? How do you show respect to somebody who does awful things? And I'm not asking you to respect somebody that's destructive and abusive, because at the end of the day, you can't control what anybody else does. And that's what makes relationships complicated, because you can change and grow and do your best, but you really can't control what your husband or wife or your boyfriend or girlfriend is going to do. You hope that they have the integrity. You hope that they're going to make the same journey. That's why you want to pay close attention to what they've done before they got in this relationship. What's the momentum of their life? And, we've all done stupid things in the past, but are we moving forward and fixing stuff? Or are we just perpetuating the same thing and you're next? And so, but if it's somebody that's a regular person and just struggles, makes mistakes, you get in conflicts, you can respect his efforts. You can respect his intentions. You can respect the small steps of improvement, and you can respect attitudes. So when you voice that and recognize that, it builds momentum in the relationship. It builds trust. And I'll tell you, Holly and I have a high maintenance marriage. Our marriage takes a lot of work to make it great. And what happens is we neglect these E5 elements. We start taking each other for granted. We start expecting more than's reasonable from the other person. We start defining life around our own circle of perspective. And so we have to be intentional. It just doesn't happen. We communicate clearly with intention. We have to intentionally prefer each other. We focus on serving rather than demanding or expecting. Sometimes you start feeling like you deserve. I expect a wife to do this, I expect a husband to do this, and then you start acting as though you deserve it, and then when they underdeliver, you stop holding back. So you just have to watch those little things in your soul so you can keep a healthy account and relationship. And what happens is that men have a tendency in relationships, and maybe not all men, but to gravitate toward becoming inattentive. And it's though we sort of turn off the switch and we like things to go on cruise control, and we suddenly become unaware of a wife's needs or her things that are changing, or her hurting, unaware that she needs to be reassured, or maybe she's getting off track from the purpose of God in her life. And so we start to not pay attention, and it's important that we stay plugged in so we know how to love like she needs to be loved. And then women have a tendency to be relationship experts because they do have a lot of insight and could be intuitive. But when you start thinking you know all about relationships and what you should do and what he should do and how things can get better, then it can become a stifling kind of relationship. Men don't want to be diagnosed. They want to be admired. You know, don't correct his spelling on a love letter because you'll never get another one. Men just want to be admired, and let me just tell you something. There's someone out there who will admire them. And that's what happens to people, good people. Things get complicated, and that's what makes a woman vulnerable, somebody who will love and adore and admire her, and her husband's not giving that. I'm not saying it's right, but that's an understandable situation. And the man is not being respected. He's not measuring up. He never does it right, never does enough. And so someone out there will say, you never do enough. You're amazing. And that's where you set up for problems. And so it's important that these E5 things are taken seriously. And I challenge you to make your marriage a masterpiece. Make your marriage that's among those that people look to and say, wow, marriage really does work. There's a tremendous pressure in relationships where we feel like that our spouse says, I wish you were different. I wish you were better. I wish you were stronger. I wish you were different than you are. You're not what I thought. And so that is a dishonoring feeling, because when you love someone, you love how they are. And if all you get is that message of, I don't fully love who you are, it begins to disintegrate the relationship. So make your eyes and your goals set to have one of those great, great relationships and marriages. You'll always be working on stuff. It takes a lot of work. But it's worth the work because marriage works. And, you know, we've had 2 books come out in the last 2 or 3 months, you know, just because of publishing timing and so forth. But even in between the 2 that came out, you know, we've had some conversations where I thought, man, I don't even want to put the next book out. I don't even know if I know what I'm talking about here, because we're just trying to work it out, you know. And so I never know what she's going to do next. I think I do, but I've been with her 29 years. But the one thing I know about her, you never know what she's going to say or do. And so I might as well get used to it or adjust to it. The other night, we were at a hotel in New York, and we were watching the Clipper game. It was a playoff game just last week, and it was the one where the Clippers were like 12 points up with a few minutes left. And Holly is into sports and will watch, but she was doing something else. And so slowly, the Clippers are just throwing the game away. And I go, Holly, look at this. Look at this. The Clippers, they have a chance. They're at home. They're going to go to the next level. And she has a way to plug right in. So she's watching. And then she does this. She goes, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. In the hotel room. And so I'm starting to crack up. I'm starting to laugh. I go, Holly, she goes, what's so funny? I go, you may want to bring the volume down a little bit, because we've been in hotel rooms where we've heard noise from us, and we're like, wow, they're having a great time. I didn't want to come out the next day and just go, you know, what can I say? How you doing? And the thing is, she thinks she knows me, and she was like, I know him 29 years, I know what he's going to do. But I changed. I changed things up a bit. So that's why I went, 29-year anniversary, you didn't expect this. So you have to be willing to invest and grow. And let me just close. I want to tell you this, that a relationship is like a dance, in that it's an art and a science. There's some things you have to do, and then there's the way that you do it. And that's what makes it interesting, and that's what makes it creative and challenging. But if you remember, if it's all about honoring the other one, I'll tell you what, if you will stay committed to helping reach your spouse's dreams get fulfilled, you'll never have a problem that's too big to solve. And keep the dreams alive in their heart and let them know you're the number one person to help do that. So what I'd like to do is close this time and pray with you. And I want to pray for God to give wisdom to those of you that are single, discretion, discernment in your life. I want to ask God to lead the steps of your feet, where you're going, who you're involved with. And I want to pray for those who are married, that God would bring healing and strength and unity and passion to your marriage. Because I believe marriage works, I believe love works, and God is the one that brings it. So let's pray together. God, I thank you for every person here. I thank you for the love that you put inside of us. And while maybe the enemy of life has tried to kill, steal, or destroy what was on the inside of us, you have been one that gives life. And we turn to you, Lord, as the giver of life and the lover of our soul. And so I ask you to heal the hurts and the wounds, the heartbreaks, the disappointments, the abuses, the tragedies. And Lord, do your work by the Holy Spirit so that we're able to love like we've never been hurt before. Take us to that place. Holy Spirit, we invite you into those places of fear and darkness and worry and pain. And we invite you to heal, to renew, to breathe. Breathe life. Help us as men to be the kind of men that can love like Jesus loved, that we love from a strength. We demonstrate our strength by how we give. Help the women here to be women who have wisdom, who recognize the treasure they have in their heart and who they are, and the power they have to bring strength to the men in their life. I ask you to give us wisdom as we pursue the relationships that honor you, and I ask you to bless our marriages. Help us to have the kind of marriage that others look at and say, I want to have something like that. I pray this in Jesus' name. And as we're in this last moment in prayer, I would like to take a minute and just to pray one other prayer with you. Because I don't like to end a service here at Oasis without giving people the opportunity to put their faith in Jesus. And that's the greatest decision that you could ever make. And I really don't believe you can have the marriage or the relationships you want to have in life without a good relationship with God, because He is the giver of love. And that's how relationships flourish. And so if you have never put your faith in Jesus, you've never accepted His love or His salvation, I want to invite you to do it tonight. And what I'm talking about is not whether you've been to church before, if your family's religious, or you've never been, or you prayed prayers, or it's just about you as an individual. Have you, as an individual, ever said, I'm putting my faith in Jesus Christ for my salvation now? I'm going to follow Him. It's like inviting God into your soul, into your world, and say, do what only you can do in my life, God. I know I can't do it. I can't be God. I want to love with a greater capacity, so I need you. And if you would like to make that decision, it's so simple and it's so dramatically life-changing. And what I'm going to do is pray a prayer out loud as a sample, as a guide, and I want to invite you to just pray along with me quietly in your heart. And God hears the prayers of your heart. And if you'll do that, I know that you could begin a relationship with God that could change your heart and your world. And so I invite you just to pray something like this where you're seated there. Just pray, God, I thank you for loving me, and I thank you for sending Jesus. And today, I want to put my faith in Jesus Christ. I'm putting my faith in His salvation, His forgiveness. I need Jesus in my life. And so I ask you to cleanse me and free me from hurts and pains and sin of the past. And fill my heart with your Spirit and help me to be the kind of person you want me to be. And to show you I'm sincere, I'm going to follow you from here on. I'm going to get baptized in water as soon as I can. I'm going to be loving others in your name. And I pray this in the name of Jesus. Amen. Amen.